Your counting starts from 1, 2, and 3, while millionaires may start numbering from 1 million, 2 million, and so on. But there is someone on this planet whose maths begin with trillions. That's a trillion with a T, folks. They are putting assets of some of the current richest persons to shame. They have given over $14 billion in debt alone to different states of Europe in just 12 years in the late 19th century. Who are they? The Rothschilds family. How did they become the world's richest? Where did their money come from? How many billions do they earn per annum? Let's find out together. Who are the Rothschilds? From coins to kingdoms. Just imagine the year is 1744, and in the narrow cobbled streets of Frankfurt's Judengasse, a boy named Mayer Amschel Rothschild is born, who would later leave a legacy that will span continents and centuries. Mayer's story is not a typical tale of rags to riches. It is a saga of financial magic and clever ambition. Mayer's journey began with a simple trade, rare coins. But don't let the word simple fool you. These were no ordinary pennies found under your couch cushions. Mayer dealt in coins so exquisite they would make kings blush and collectors swoon. And he soon came to the attention of none other than Crown Prince Wilhelm of Hesse. Soon, Mayer was no longer just dealing in coins, but also managing the princely finances, which brought him into contact with the nobility and immersed him in the world of finance that builds empires. And so he did. Mayer's 5 sons, Amschel, Salomon, Nathan, Karl, and Yamas, were the architects of his empire and were sent to European capitals to build financial fortresses in Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples. Mayer's strategy was about legacy. And how do you cement a legacy? You teach your sons everything you know and send them out to conquer. Not with swords, but with ledgers and loans. The wages paid to various countries such as England, Prussia, and France alone exceed the $14 billion mark in today's money. Mayer's sons were more than just bankers, they were pioneers of international finance, stitching together a web that caught kings and queens in its silk. They financed railroads, mined diamonds, and even had a hand in the Suez Canal's construction, a waterway more valuable than the most opulent of tapestries, where they invested a tremendous £14 million at the time. Nathan Rothschild, the banker who bankrolled a war. This is Nathan Rothschild, the financial maestro who turned the tide of war with a ledger in one hand and a carrier pigeon in the other. His story isn't just about money, but also about the power of information and the audacity to seize opportunities when the world is in chaos. In 1810, Nathan Rothschild laid the foundations for N.M. Rothschild and Sons in England, a banking institution that was to become synonymous with wealth and power. It was said that the sun never set on the British Empire, and perhaps it never set on the Rothschilds' empire either. Nathan Mayer Rothschild's foresight was as sharp as the cut of his suits, and soon N.M. Rothschild was not just a bank. It was the bank that financed wars and shaped nations. This bank set the legacy of the Rothschild banking empire, which is worth more than $7.7 billion today. It was the turn of the 19th century, and Europe was a chessboard with Napoleon as a fearsome player. But even the greatest emperor needed gold to keep his armies moving, and this is where Nathan came in. Until then, he had granted loans to individuals, but now it was time to give loans to nations. While publicly supporting the British cause, the Rothschilds were accused of playing both sides and secretly funneling gold to Napoleon's troops. It was a classic Rothschild move, profit from every angle, no matter who won the war. Why not? Because the great Mayer Amschel himself taught Nathan this lesson. It was said that if the Rothschild brothers didn't want to finance a war, it simply wouldn't happen. Nathan Rothschild knew the outcomes of the Battle of Waterloo before anyone else in England, thanks to his network of swift messengers and carrier pigeons spying from a corner of the battlefield. It was a stroke of genius, or perhaps the most cunning bluff in financial history. He spread the false report that England had lost the war. The market panicked, thinking Napoleon had won. Then, bonds and the stock market hit rock bottom. Nathan bought them all up, and when the official news of Napoleon's defeat arrived in England, the value of the bonds soared, and so did the Rothschilds' fortune. There you go. He generated a mouth-opening $6 billion from this cunning move alone. The Gunnersbury Park gamble. But Naughton's hunger for more wasn't yet satisfied. How could it be otherwise when you have to build a legacy for future generations? In 1835, he purchased Gunnersbury State for $177,000, equivalent to around $3 million today, and transformed it into a living paradise. It was developed into a beautiful park, the centerpiece of which was a magnificent mansion furnished to the teeth with tapestries, artwork, and all manner of luxury. And guess what? 100 years later, when it was finished, he sold it for the equivalent of $132 million. The thing he had bought for a pittance was now being sold for a symphony. That's not just business, that's alchemy. At the time, it was the second most expensive property after that of a king, and the current value of this property is estimated at a whopping $25 billion. Art legacy. The first step in the form of Waddesdon Manor. The Rothschild family has a long tradition of patronizing and collecting art dating back to the 18th century. Their passion for art is reflected in the extensive collection, which includes works commissioned by medieval kings, Roman consuls, and Venetian merchants. The collection, which adorns the interiors of their magnificent mansions, is estimated to be worth over $2 billion. But it all began with the brother's love for his sister, who built a magnificent estate in the leafy town of Birminghamshire in the 1880s. A member of the Rothschild family, Baron Ferdinand Rothschild, was separated from his younger sister Alice in infancy when he was sent to England by his father. Despite the hundreds and thousands of miles difference and days to weeks for a message to be delivered, he was still to share his heart with his sweet little sister. But when they finally met after 20 years, Baron Ferdinand built an architectural jewel as a love letter to his sister Alice. It was a sanctuary built with a heart full of memories and a wallet that never flinched. At a cost of £1.5 million, or $265 million today, it was Ferdinand's tribute to his sister Alice, a place where their shared passion for horticulture and art could flourish. Within these walls, the Rothschilds housed a collection ranging from Byzantine tapestries to Renaissance masterpieces, each with a more captivating story than the next. Rumor has it that the Rothschilds hoard relics of biblical proportions. The Holy Grail, blueprints of Noah's Ark, and even strands of the deity himself. But let's not get carried away into the realm of fantasy. The real treasure lies in the Rothschilds' keen sense of art that transcends time and trends. Their collection is conservatively valued at a staggering $2 billion and is a gateway to the past. It has witnessed the rise and fall of kingdoms, seen empires expand and shrink, and witnessed history being written and rewritten. The Rothschilds' love for wine and art, the 1945 vintage. In the annals of viticulture, there is a legendary vintage called 1945 Chateau Mouton Rothschild. It wasn't only a good year for grapes, but also the end of a world war and the beginning of a wonderful friendship between art and wine. As the world breathed a sigh of relief at the end of the Second War, the Rothschilds decided to celebrate in a way that only they could, by combining their two greatest loves. The result? A bottle of wine filled with fermented grape juice, but with the essence of historical art. Baron Felipe de Rothschild, an art lover with a penchant for the dramatic, commissioned an artist to decorate the label of the 1945 vintage with a V for victory. Chateau Mouton Rothschild, formerly known as Chateau Brun Mouton, wasn't only a wine estate, but also a canvas on which the Rothschild painted their legacy. With every bottle, they infused their passion for art, ensuring that every sip contained a glimpse of masterpieces by Picasso, Dali, and Warhol. Fast forward to today, and the Rothschilds' wine business isn't only flourishing, it's also aging like the wine it produces. The current value of their wine business is $10 billion. If you're lucky enough to get your hands on a bottle of 1945 Chateau Mouton Rothschild, you're not just dealing with a wine, you're gazing upon a liquid chronicle of history. Worth several $1,000s a bottle, it's a piece of time that you can literally taste. If you dare to uncork it, that is. How Rothschilds swim in billions and trillions of dollars. When we dive into the ocean of the Rothschilds' wealth, it is hard not to be dazzled by the sheer size of their treasure chest. Imagine Scrooge McDuck's money bin, but instead of gold coins, it's filled with assets that make the GDP of small countries look like pocket change. They own Agora Oil and Gas, and it's a drop in their huge pool, but it was bought for $370 million. Today, it's valued at over $1.4 billion. That's not just a good investment, that's turning water into wine, or in this case, oil into gold. The Glencore Mining Company is a giant among giants, employing 145,000 people and is valued at almost $130 billion. The Rothschilds' involvement in Glencore is a masterpiece of investment skill that has turned an ordinary company into a giant in the mining world. And then there is Rio Tinto Mining Corporation, a crown jewel in the mining world. With a value of $103 billion and the title of the world's largest copper producer, Rio Tinto is proof of the Rothschilds' ability to spot gold, or in this case copper, from afar. Its annual turnover of more than $30 billion is legendary. And for a touch of the high seas, we have the super yacht Planet NES, a vessel so big it's bigger than the dwarf planet Pluto. This yacht was bought by Naughton Rothschild for $85 million and is a floating statement of wealth and power. The Rothschilds not only swim in their billions, they backstroke through trillions. The current portfolio of the Rothschilds. Fast forward to today, the Rothschild portfolio is a behemoth, rumored to be worth about $1 trillion. From lending to individuals to entire countries to now owning pieces of history, the Rothschilds haven't just made money, they've made history.